Yeah, we deserve to win.
Yes, you did, Daryl Sutter, but boy, did that goaltender ever make it close. Welcome to Got Your Back, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Nobody puts in wood windows or siding anymore. Why would you build a wood fence or deck? Do it once, do it with high-quality, maintenance-free vinyl. Call my brothers at DLR Vinyl Products, Rick and Rob. They've got locations in Calgary and Edmonton. Today on the podcast, we will tee up the Battle of Alberta. Jason Strudwick and guest analyst Terry Ryan will join me, courtesy Park Mazda. And how about the Maple Leafs? One and done again. Duthie and Dreger stop by for Belvan Construction. We'll debrief another disappointing result for the Leafs. And in our De Boer's Golf Shop Who's Got Your Back segment, the smiliest, happiest weather guy on TV, Josh Classen, checks in for a tale on who had his back. Presented by DLR Vinyl Products, this is Got Your Back. As we say good morning to Terry Ryan and Jason Strudwick. Fellas, how was the weekend? Struddy, pretty crazy Saturday night.
Yeah, it sure was. I mean, it was also a weekend of hockey, and lots of stuff for the kids, but obviously the focus was the NHL playoffs. And, that was my first time for my kids to watch a Game 7 for the Oilers at home. And, it hooked them. It hooks a person for life into hockey. And that's what I wanted. My wife suggested the kids go to bed early. And I'm like, there's no way. There is no way they're going to bed early and the kids found love of the sport.
For me, it was just great to see. It was probably my favorite game that I've watched in the last half decade. And I mean that. Yeah. I love watching performances. I love watching greatness. I love watching players step up. And, like I said, it's hard to just go make yourself score a goal. Like it's just sometimes you have bad luck, but for some reason, the best always do it over the course of history. You look back, and I'm not just talking hockey. Kawhi Leonard, right? There's a way to come right down to one shot, and with I'm talking about the Raptors a few years ago.
Yeah,
right. There's just like for some reason that always seems to happen, and that took me back to being a kid watching the Oilers in the '80s. Just the greatness on display.
Yeah, we have so much to talk about, so we're just going to dive right into it. Time for the breakdown, brought to you by Park Mazda, where the newly redesigned 2022 CX-5 has arrived. Check out the brand new all-wheel drive sport design trim with its turbocharged engine and see the available colors and trims in stock at parkmazda.ca. I don't even know where to start. I mean, the Oiler game was nuts, but then we have this Calgary game last night with the Battle of Alberta on the line. I think maybe we'll just start there because it's fresh. The one thing I'm disappointed in you guys, Jake Ottinger is done for the year because that guy almost single-handedly propelled his team into the second round. That was a performance for the absolute ages. I think he was like 64 saves or something. TR, I know you gutted it out and stayed up late last night. Just a phenomenal performance. And Johnny Gaudreau finally beat him. But wow, Jake Ottinger.
That's what playoffs are all about for me. It was so exciting to watch. And I love all these Game 7s where there's so much time during the series, but when competition is at its finest and when the stars rise to the occasion, I'm talking about both sides, and many series, it can come down to one shot. I find that fascinating. And in a sport like hockey where there's so much physicality and speed and quick decisions, for it all to come down to a shot is amazing. It's beautiful as a sports fan. And not only that, it wasn't boring hockey that came down to a shot. It wasn't like watching the Devils and, when the trap came in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it took a while because there was no shots on net. This was acrobatical saves back and forth. The best players were on display. They rose to the occasion. And I'm talking mostly about the Flames and the Oilers here now. But I found both series similar to watch in that. Extremely exciting. There was major ups, major downs. And both favored Alberta, and both are going to be exciting to watch in the next round.
Yeah, you sit down and you look at the Western Conference with Jake Ottinger now, it changes the landscape. He played so well. And, that the Stars have traded for, signed bartered for all these goalies, and it turns out the guy that he wanted or had was the one he drafted, and he's going to be a monster. And Dallas, that suits the way they love to play with Rick Bowness as a coach. At least they just want to sit back. They're going to play tight D, and they'll be opportunistic when they get a chance to score. But ultimately, this was the outcome I personally wanted. I wanted to see Dallas out, so you could see Calgary and Edmonton play in the playoffs, and that's good for, I think it's good for Alberta. It's good for the NHL. It's great for the league, and it's great for hockey. So this next round is going to be intense, and both teams know each other. There's going to be no surprises. Both coaches kind of have a sense of what's going on out there. Different approaches for sure. It's going to be an unbelievable ride to see these two teams go at it.
Daryl Sutter post-game, he was really blunt about his team. As we go to the Average Joe's sound box here, Average Joe's on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park. If you're looking for a spot to watch the Battle of Alberta, definitely give Average Joe's a look next to Home Depot. Daryl Sutter was kind of classic Daryl Sutter post-game in talking about the fact that, hey, his team earned it.
Yeah, we deserve to win. Took 100 and some shots. If we'd lost, I know what you'd have been saying, so we deserve to win. That's questions and answers. We deserve to win. Simple.
Yes, they did. They deserve to win. And Sutter pretty blunt about that. I think that the Calgary Flames had some pretty critical players that weren't playing great in that series, that were struggling to produce. It was low scoring for the most part, grinding. Some felt at times it was boring. So I don't know, Struds, I'll start with you as we push it forward to the next round. Is that a formula for the Calgary Flames to beat the Edmonton Oilers if they play in large part the way they did against the Stars? Is that the right formula?
Well, I think we have to give a bit of credit to the Stars. I think the Stars also forced a bit of that type of play out of the Flames. But when I'm looking at this series, I'm thinking a couple things. One, I prefer this D matchup for the Oilers as opposed to what the Stars had. The Stars have some amazingly good skaters and very good defenders. The Flames are a little bit different. They've got some size in their 5 and 6 guys with Gabranson and Zadorov. Then you got up to the top four, maybe a little bit smaller. Although Tanev, he's a huge question mark with what he brings to the group. Then up front, they've got a lot of talent, and they've got pretty good centermen. I don't think the centers are as good as what the Oilers will have faced in Deneau and Kopitar. No disrespect to those Flames guys, but they're not quite at that level. So it's a really interesting matchup. And the approach the Oilers took in Game 7, one of patience, is a way they're going to have to play against the Flames. You cannot expose yourself with a wide open shootout type of game. I think you want to be patient. Make sure you look after your own end and take what you got or are given, kind of to work with you through the Flames. And quite honestly, that's kind of a playoff recipe anyways.
I agree, Struds, and I think, well, first of all, getting back to Sutter's comment that they deserve to win. I mean, to a degree, Ottinger's on the team, though, right? I always said that. Deserve to win to me is when the ref makes an absolutely terrible call that, the puck went in, but it didn't. That's deserving to win. Had Dallas won, I would have said they were deserving of it. I thought their goalie, again, I want to be the dead horse here, but he's on the team, right? If a center scores 5 goals, you deserve to win that game. If a goalie makes 300 saves, you deserve to win. But anyway, getting past that, I don't think. I think Calgary are deeper. I think they're going to be a little bit harder to play against. But I don't think the pendulum swings too far one way or the other. It's playoff hockey. Some teams or each team has a slight advantage here or there without breaking it all down. I just think it's playoff hockey, and they're going to step it up. If you watch those. Let's just break it down to the Game 7s, right? I think both teams were really intense. Struds brought up a great point about the Oilers. Sometimes the Oilers, a lot of times you say a team's not ready. When that happens off the start, to me, when I watch the Oilers, it's not always that they're not ready mentally. It's not that they're not giving it their all. They might just be going a little bit too chicken with their head cut off, a little bit too Tassie tornado out there, right? They slow down. They play it patiently. I think they have some solid players that, it's playoff hockey. I don't think that I think Calgary might have a bit deeper of a different defense core anyway, if you want to go there. But I don't think it's glaringly obvious. I think McDavid and Draisaitl are the best 2 forwards in the series. But I again, no disrespect, I don't think it's way out in front. And I think Calgary might even be a little bit deeper there. But when it comes to the actual play, I'm not sure, guys. I think wasn't the season series close? They haven't played in the playoffs in a long, long time.
Yeah,
Both cities
3-1
are
for the
going to
Oil.
be absolutely on fire when it comes to energy. So I think you're just going to go out there and you're going to. I think I'm pleasantly looking forward to. I have no idea what's going to happen.
I'm with you. But, Struds, you talked about the Flames' third D pair. And, as we watch that series progress, like Eric Goodbranson and Nikita Zadorov were unbelievable. And I would say they're the second D pair. They are the 3-4 guys right now, the way that they're playing. Like Eric Goodbranson was in the off season, like he's one of those guys that, everybody kind of knew was there, but nobody was in this massive rush to sign. Are you kidding me? He has played unbelievable. The way he's moving, the way he's passing the puck, the way he's shooting. Zadorov has been an absolute menace. They're on the ice all the time. So it is going to be fascinating to me to see how, and I'm not sure how often they'll end up out there against McDavid or Draisaitl, but boy, those are big, bruising, nasty defensemen. And life is going to be miserable for the Oiler forwards when they're out there because they made life miserable for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and they do. And you're going to have to look at some of the Oilers. A guy like Fogo, who didn't play in the last 2 games, a guy like Puljujarvi, Zach Kassian. They're going to have to get in there and kind of make those guys turn. You want them, the biggest thing, and I was similar to those guys, big and a little bit, not the fastest guy. You want them to make plays under pressure, right? So put them in a situation where they're forced to make plays sooner than they want. And when you do that, they're going to make bad decisions. That's just the way it is. And that's forechecking. That's where you put the puck. It's making them turn their feet and making plays with their toes facing their own goal rather than up ice. It's listen, there's a lot of other keys to this series, but I think those are 2 guys that you have to make a life hard for them in this series. And the guys I just mentioned are guys who are going to have to do that because, Connor's going to be doing what he does. Same with Leon. Hyman working it down low. Yamamoto. I mean, Yamamoto gives up a lot of size and weight against those guys, but you have to make it uncomfortable. Then you got other guys like Oliver Shillington, who played a little bit less than them. He's a guy that is prone at times to the big mistake. He's going to try to do too much. You find D-men try to do too much when they're under pressure. So I think getting on these guys is huge. And you could see the Oilers do it against the Kings. The problem is for the Oilers is that these group of defensemen are more mature and more finished products than they were for the Kings.
Yeah, we'll have to see where Shillington is at too, because he fell into the boards awkwardly. He's had some shoulder issues this year, so would be a big loss because a nice mobile defenseman for them. TR, what about the physical aspect of this series? Like the Calgary Flames will punch you in the mouth. They've got guy after guy, Lucic and Richie and, Zadorov and Goodbranson. Like these guys are menacingly tough. And menacingly difficult to play against. The Oilers have some guys that can kind of bring that style of game. But if you're the Oilers, how do you handle the fact that this team physically can really impose themselves on you if they want to? How much pushback and how much do you scrum it up?
I wouldn't want to start getting into the penalty game and taking penalties, but I would fight fire with fire. I think they're like, even when it comes to McDavid, look at the games he played. I'm not saying he's got to go out there now and be Archibald. I'm not saying he's got to throw his weight everywhere, but he's pretty physical. He's a big guy. He's down in the corner. I'm not even saying go and popping guys open ice, but finish your hits. Show that you're not intimidated. I think the first part of the series might lean towards that. Guys out there and seeing how they react. You remember in the Devils used to have was it Danico that played with Scott Stevens? Yeah. Danico would be solid, and then once in a while, the way he would angle you off, Stevens would come up and just pop you. I find Zadorov and Goodbranson a lot like that. But if you get them moving a lot, no one likes to get hit. Just throw it in behind them. That's old school, man. Finish your hits. And I think if Draisaitl and McDavid, I hate every time putting the pressure on them, but who are you going to point out here? If they come and respond like they did, I think the other teams will fall in line. That game I told you about, I think it was game 2 or game 3. I keep getting mixed up. By McDavid was my favorite game that I'd ever seen him play. And you look back at that game when he started to get physical. Create goals physical. Yamamoto came out like he was shot out of a cannon. And yeah, he gives up size, but when he hits, he's as effective as any hitter out there. And the Oilers, when they want to, I think they can match it. It's not if they were to all square off and get in a bench brawl, might be a little bit different. But when you're talking toughness, I assume you mean just the mental and the physical aspect of bouncing back and making hits. Anybody can make a hit. You can come back and play not intimidated, right? You don't have to drop the gloves. Now it might change a little bit there, but we can go down the list. I don't think, the elephant in the room when it comes to toughness, a lot of people say Lucic, but I don't think that's any different than Cassian going out there running around. And if we started fighting, then it would be different. But I think the Oilers are way tougher than people think they are. And if the Flames are going to go that route, I think they're in for a surprise.
Just to follow that up, jump in here. I'd be interested to see how the Oilers play it, because part of me thinks the Oilers should just play between the whistles. And if there's a scrum after the whistle, just skate away. Because I think for the Flames, I think they feed off that. I think they're a group that loves that, led by the mighty Tkachuk. So I'm wondering if that's not a way they maybe kind of just play between the whistles, or Rasmus Anderson. Skate, there's play them hard, get after them, and then skate away after the whistles, and maybe there'll be some frustration from the Flames.
Yeah, it's funny because it's a good strategy, and especially if the refs are in the mood to just take one guy, and if you force them to be the aggressors. But Struds, is there a cumulative effect of just walking away and just walking away and just walking away, where at a certain point you got to stand your ground, right? Because where do these scrums happen? They happen in front of your netminder. Well, that's space that you're paid to protect, and a lot of it is pushing back to keep people out of your space. So I don't know if just walking away is the way you can handle like Matthew Tkachuk and these guys when they start to get into your space that you are supposed to make a statement by protecting. Well,
it's true. But those guys that I mentioned, they draw energy from those type of interactions, right? So you want to feed that monster. The problem is, or the reality is, the Oilers also have players like that. Zach Cassen, I think, feeds off that. I think Yamamoto feeds off that. So even the goalie, Mike Smith, he feeds off it as well, right? Who we should say had an unbelievable last couple games. But yeah, it'll be really interesting, because that's a conversation that will happen in the dressing room with the coaching staff and say, okay, what do we, how are we going to handle these situations? It's coming. It's not whether it comes. It's coming. How do we handle it? How do we approach it as a group?
I'm saying two penalties for Mike Smith this series. By the way, I'm saying he's getting two. Yeah. He's not going to be able to resist himself.
Yeah.
TR.
I think another thing is that we can talk about it, but we're talking in generalizations unless we're talking about a specific score. If it's 2-0, that's completely different. Don't jump.
Yeah.
Or
great point.
I think it's going to depend on the score with how much pushback you actually see. That's why I really don't know what to expect, guys. Someone could get out to a bad bounce, could start the series and through no fault of the home team or whatever, and lead to a completely different series of events. Like, we're looking at two teams that they know what's on the. When's the last time they met in the playoffs? 20 years ago, more than that.
Yeah, a long time ago, man.
A long time ago. And both fan bases. We talked about energy last game with LA coming. I mean, what about the energy now? What about when the series opens up? Right, it's a completely different energy. It's not just. It's the Battle of Alberta. We say it rolls off the tongue, but really think about that. It's some of the most passionate fans in the world. You're pretty much at ground zero. You're in Canada, in a province with two teams that are both on fire, expecting big things to win the Stanley Cup. Finally, they both meet in the playoffs. They're starved. Last year there was no fans. I mean, I think it's going to be bonkers everywhere. It's going to be the sea of red. You're going to go up, and White Avenue is going to be on fire. I'm excited. I might find myself out there in a couple of weeks, guys. I really might. These are kinds of things I fly out to watch. But I mean, I think that's going to have a big part to do with it. How do a lot of these players react to that? And you don't really know until it starts.
Well, I tell you what, I don't want, you guys. I don't want Evander Kane fighting Eric Branson. If you're an Oilers team member, or Lucic, or Zadorov, right? You don't want Darnell Nurse scrapping with one of those defensemen. Zach Cassian will handle the business that he has to handle, but there's only so much he's going to be able to do. And the intensity level, I think, will push this over into scraps. I can't imagine this is going to be a bunch of face washes and hard hits. At some point, there's going to be a 2 or 3 goal spread, and it'll be interesting to see, how the choices Evander Kane makes in that moment, because towards the end of the year here, Struddy, he was itching to get into one. Like, he was looking for him a little bit. You could see. But these are some big, tough boys that Calgary has, and you can't have Evander Kane getting hurt. He's too much of a difference maker.
But the trade-off, right? What's the trade-off? And that's the problem. Trading Kane for Lucic, Kane for Gabranson or whatever, it's not worth it. That's the challenge. I know if you're up or down 3 or 4 goals at the end of the game, a fight, the trade-off doesn't matter. But the risk of injury, and I hate saying this because I never thought of that, but I was a guy that wanted to trade off with Kane. You
Yeah.
wanted to take him out of the game.
Let's see if I can break this guy's hand on my forehead.
It'd be great. I'd be a hero. They'd make a song about me, a folk song about this half bald man that broke someone's hand with his head. Like those are great
giant
things. But
forehead.
yeah, you've got to be really careful, right? You got to be really careful. So it is such a fine line, but also you don't want to take his ability to have that freedom to make that choice away either. I had that one time. A coach told me don't fight, and I couldn't stand it. Because it's wrong. You can't call the word that TR just used, like that very general statement, doesn't cover every moment of every game. So it's really tough. I think at the end of the day, he'll have to trust his players. Woodcroft will have to trust his players to make the right decisions in the right moments. And man, it is going to be a barn burner. And I think getting off to a good start will be really important for both teams, especially where it's starting down there in the
Flames are the best starting team in the league. They're the best team at getting out of the gates quickly and scoring first, and that's going to be a big issue for the Oilers.
Yeah.
We've teed up the matchup here, but guys, we can't skip over Connor McDavid in Game 7. We got to get to it. I mean, one of the most dominating performances, really Game 6 and 7. His two most physically dominating performances, and physical in the sense of not just hitting, but using his physicality and his physical abilities to just absolutely dominate his opponents. As we go back to the Average Joe soundbox, here's Leon Draisaitl doing his best to describe what we witnessed.
You can see it in his eyes. You can feel it every shift that he's out there. He's determined, and there's just no way that he or us we were going to be denied, right? So he led the way. He was amazing. So great job by him.
Struds, you first. Put into perspective, in your opinion, what we just saw from Connor McDavid.
Game 6 and Game 7 are two of the best hockey games I've ever seen a player play from Connor McDavid. And it's not just the offensive ability. It was the back checking. It was like being all over the ice, getting his teammates fired up. And when that goal that he scored, the second goal, and Jersey gives up because of the hooking, and he just kind of keeps on it. He did not stop. He was so tenacious. It was like everyone else stopped playing except for Connor McDavid, and he got it done. It was a whole nother level that I keep seeing it in Connor. But this was the level. I didn't think he'd have this level in him, and he got it done. There was no way. Leon's 100%. There was no way the team was losing this game, and Connor McDavid just threw the team on his shoulders, said, "Guys, we got this." It was an amazing performance, TR.
Yeah, I was blown away. And I'll tell you, man, I went back and watched it again. I'm serious. It was wild. What I noticed a lot, I mean, all we're going to do here is break down levels of greatness here. But Connor, when he's flying, right, and sometimes he's flying, let's say it's 4-1 in the third period, and he's flying anyway, but he's so fast. But what I noticed, and so it's like a free flow kind of watching a real high-paced, I don't know, pregame skate. He's wheeling so fast. Mm-hmm. And almost without care. But in that game, I noticed he'd be flying, but he'd be stopping, and he'd be like, when he stops and starts, because he's got it's so noticeable, because out of the gate he's got to have the fastest 6 or 7 strides, right, to start his wheeling. Yeah. So but when he's or when he's penalty killing, or when he has to do it, he'll stop and he'll start, and because I know it's not easy to make that decision as a player. I'm not saying you're loafing it, but you can often make a play without stopping and still make it effective, right? But when he's on and he's just and it's the second effort, and that last goal that he scored there, that was just an example. It was just tenacity, tenacious. That's the right word, Struds. He was just at it. He was at it, and you could tell that he wasn't going to be denied. At some point, that black disc has to go into that net, and there's a player out there that he's got it. He's going. It's just constantly. It had to go in. Yeah. Physics say that it had to go in eventually, and you hear the term putting a team on your back. I think people throw that around too much. I think the word unreal, unbelievable are overused, but in this case, those words, unbelievable, unreal, I've never seen anything like it, and I mean it. I often say, guys, I'm rambling, but I often say I'm not ready to say Connor McDavid is the best ever. I'm not putting down these fans. I think it's relative dominance. I don't care if 50 points wins this championship or 250 points. If you win 16 years in a row, or it's Lemieux or Gretzky 16 years in a row, if you win by 80 points. So I'm saying relative dominance. Now, what I mean by that is that I've gone on record. No, he's not the best ever. Give me 3 rounds. Give me a Stanley Cup. But what I'm saying here is that game was the most well-rounded game I've ever seen from any of those players, from any superstar. I'm including Crosby, who I love, who could be my favorite player because he's two-way if I've ever seen it. But that particular game was the best defense, the best offense, the most set, the most tuned-in brain athletically that I've ever seen. We were wondering whether he was going to rise to the occasion. My God, I feel bad even being an 8 out of 10 on that.
Yeah, he was amazing, and it'll be interesting to see what level of that comes out of the gate in game number 1. I don't think we can expect a guy to be like that every single night. I mean, really, when they were staring down elimination, is when that elevated level of greatness presented itself from Connor McDavid. Great stuff, guys. That was the breakdown brought to you by Park Mazda, your dealer for life in Sherwood Park off Y Road. Visit parkmazda.ca. Struds, we're not going to wrap this up without giving each of you a chance briefly here to comment on what we witnessed with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, Struds, I'll lay this out for you and give you the floor, sir.
You know what? I don't like
fellas on overdrive probably aren't listening.
Yeah, listen, I don't like the Leafs fans, but I have to give that team credit. They battled like crazy, and unfortunately ran against a team that is just more mature, has been down that road, and didn't seem to get rattled. Long summer for the Leafs. I will say this: I don't think they need to blow this team up and change a ton of things. But you know, I don't feel bad for Leafs fans. I do feel bad for that team. So I watched a ton of that series, and they were right there, step for step. But unfortunately, they came up short. And now, same questions around it. Is it the right leadership? Is it the right mix of players? And they've got some questions to answer, including a netminder. And what does that contract look like? Or is he even back next year? So, man, it's a tough spot for that team.
TR?
I watched all of it, guys, and I feel not particularly a Leafs fan, although this year, I listened to the boys on Overdrive enough, and I feel such a deep concern that I hope this year they'd at least get out of the first round, guys. Yeah. And when I watched, and a stat that was glaring to me, the most glaring, Austin Matthews, he had 5 hits in a game was his max on the year. And in the last 3, he had 9, 7, and 8. Like he was trying, and when I say Marner, Tavares, Leander, and we had reasons and everybody had reasons, and I know that they want to point a finger. The most frustrating part of all of it, there is no finger to point. They stepped up. They did it. The other years you could say, this is the scapegoat, but there wasn't one. And I really felt bad. But remember, I went back earlier and I've been saying that the best find a way to do it. For some reason, the ball would find itself into Michael Jordan's hand. Crosby scored that goal in 2010, right? Gretzky back his first game in Edmonton. Or no, he scored his 802nd goal to break it in Edmonton. Mario Lemieux scored on his first and his last shot, right? The odds of it, but it seems to happen. I can go to every sport. And Matthews and Marner and company just haven't seemed to hit that niche yet. But they're working hard. It's not, I think at some point, I hope it happens for Austin Matthews more than anything because 60 goals, it's a great thing. And all they hear every year at this time is negativity, and sometimes for good reason. But they're really, really, really trying. And I think at some point the page will be turned. It's hard for an old fan to say, I'm 45. When are they going to do it? I'm going to be 50 when they win it. He's 24 years old. He's got a long career. And Matthews is just a microcosm of the whole thing. I think the whole group I think they've got to get better defensively, though. But the whole group is growing. It's just a little bit slowly or more slow than their fan base would have liked.
Well, as Sheldon Keefe said, I mean, I think they did a lot to earn a lot of respect in this series, but they're not in the respect business, right? They're in the winning business.
Every year you say the same thing.
I know, buddy. But I think this year it's different. You have the regular season they had, and then you land the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round. Like, come on. That's just an absolute terrible turn for them. Tampa was going to wake up. They know how to go to sleep for a little bit and wake up at the right time. But the Leafs were right there with them. Definitely. Listen, I don't cheer, but as a hockey fan, I want to see Austin Matthews push deep into the playoffs. I want to see him take that goal-scoring prowess, and I want to put that prowess on big stages and see what he can do. They did what they could, came up against a good opponent. But now the noise begins out in Toronto. Guys, thanks so much for the time. I can't wait to dig into the Battle of Alberta. It gets underway on Wednesday. We'll check in regularly. We'll be dropping pods through the series. TR, thanks, buddy. Thanks, Struddy.
Yep. See you guys.
See you guys soon. Thanks again.
All right. Plenty more to come on the podcast. Stay with us, folks. You're listening to Got Your Back, presented by DLR Vinyl Products. Hey, Struddy, question for you. Have you ever tried putting in your own fence?
I sure have. Between digging the posts, mixing up cement and digging the holes, it's absolute killer.
It's brutal on the back. Well, listen, what if I told you could put in a fence without having to dig a hole or mix any concrete?
I'd be much more likely to come over and help you out.
Yeah, well, you're not the first guy I would call, but thank you for that. Listen, my brother's company, DLR Vinyl Products, they've come up with a system where you can actually put high-quality vinyl fence in the ground without having to dig a hole, without having to mix any concrete. They can teach do-it-yourselfers how to do it, and they can also work with contractors who might be looking to start installing vinyl. It's super high-quality product. The great thing about it is that it has fantastic longevity. You put it in, you don't have to worry about staining or sanding or anything like that. I've been lucky enough, Struddy. They've put in multiple fences in my different yards, and they've built me 3 decks. I have totally abused the fact that my family is in the fencing and decking business, but it's great product. Give Rob a call in Calgary or Rick a call here in Edmonton. This is a company my dad started. It's a family business. I'm super proud of it, and I'm very proud that they are our title sponsors. That's DLR Vinyl Products in Edmonton and Calgary.
Hey, it's Ryan Rishaug. While many are feeling the sting of inventory shortages, Park Mazda has you covered. They've got new Mazdas arriving every month, including the redesigned 22CX5 in whatever color you're looking for. They've also got a huge selection of used vehicles with new arrivals every week and some of the most competitive interest rates on cars, trucks, SUVs, and more. Park Mazda, your dealer for life in Sherwood Park, off Y Road. Schedule a test drive at parkmazda.ca.
Hey, time now for R2D2, Duthie and Dregs, brought to you by Belvan Construction, specializing in the design, planning, and construction of restaurants, office spaces, professional clinics, and retail spaces. Visit belvanconstruction.com. Welcoming in Darren Dreger and James Duthie. Fellas, how are things out in your neck of the woods? How is Leafs Nation managing these last couple of days?
Well, before we get to all that, Jimmy, when Ryan goes through that Belvan read, does that just not take you back to the tsn.ca days? For ice chips, I'm Ryan Rishaug.
What do you mean? I think I'm doing a good job of this.
Yeah, no, you've got this cadence, this rise and fall when you do your commercial reads.
I've heard you on your podcast, and you do your sponsor reads even more like put on and dramatically than I do.
Yeah, but I've got a way better voice.
It's true. I got a bad broadcast voice. I'm not.
Anyway, sorry to derail your podcast.
Well, I'll do it again. I'll give Belvan a little more love. Time now for Duthie and Dregs, brought to you by Belvan Construction, specializing in the design, planning, and construction of restaurants, office spaces, professional clinics, and retail spaces. Visit belvanconstruction.com. That was all.
Chiron here.
Okay. You've had your fun. I'll let you. Actually,
Okay.
no, James, you go first. Dregs, you can be quiet for a minute. I don't know, James. What do you make of it, buddy? Like, what's the mood of fans versus the mood of the organization?
I mean, I'll go with fans because I can only go by what I hear from my buddies or the guys at the golf course who are diehard Leaf fans. I think there was a sadness this year where it was more anger last year. I actually felt like it was worse, and it should have been worse when you look at last year. The door was wide open for them, and they were a superior team to the Montreal Canadiens, and to have a 3-1 lead and blow it the way they did and to not even show up in Game 7. And even the year before against Columbus in the bubble, I think those should have been the two most frustrating years. And if you were calling for firings and such, that it would have come more after those 2 years. I think this one, just from the reaction of my buddies, was just more of this sort of sadness and acceptance that it's never going to break their way. It was literally almost sad hearing from there, like, they tried so hard, but they just can never get it done. And so, yeah, it's bleak. It's bleak out here in where you people live, as you like to say, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a similar account. I think of my 20-year-old son Mason, who's a diehard Leafs fan, and I got a text from him as Game 7 was winding down, and it was just simply, "I'm literally feeling physical pain," which sounds like a gross exaggeration, but to some degree, I think that fits the mindset of the fan base. I mean, it was a terrific series, right? It was a very evenly played series. Toronto's offense couldn't get going in Game 7. I wonder, not to take this to the Oilers series, but the games that I watched, when they made the lineup adjustments and started giving Connor more ice and Leon more ice and Yamamoto got elevated, Game 6, Game 7, every time I saw Yamamoto on the ice in the offensive zone, he was making life uncomfortable for Jonathan Quick, right?
Yeah, I
He was
agree.
getting there. So, if I were having the internal audit conversations from Brendan Shanahan to Kyle Dubas and the hockey operations department of the Toronto Maple Leafs, that would be the hockey takeaway for me. This club just relied so heavily on their big guys in Matthews and in Marner and in Nylander and to a degree Tavares and Morgan Riley and all of that. But Pierre Engvall was borderline, unnoticeable in the last 2-3 games of the series. Mike Bunting didn't have the series he was hoping for. Mikheyev, go down the list of the players that could have played a similar role that Yamamoto did in making things tough for Vasilevsky. They were looking for the highlight goals to win the series, and it didn't come.
Yeah, and this gets into what comes next, right? Fans obviously are always they're gonna overreact. That's what fans do. But Kyle Dubas has decisions to make here. And I remember when the Oilers lost the last couple of years, a lot of the narrative was got to get better players around them, right? Obviously, you've got 2 great superstars, need to do a better job. Well, here they are. They finally are able to push through that first round. But you got Zach Hyman and Evander Kane sitting there. So I don't know, guys, is this about just strictly a better supporting cast being needed? Or did they just come up against a team that, they're the 2-time defending champs. Everybody knew they were going to come out of their slumber at playoff time. I don't know, James, was this just a really bad draw for the Leafs after a great season? I feel like James is frozen.
I thought it was, honestly, I'm watching and he's frozen and I'm thinking to myself, he's not even listening to what I'm saying. But I didn't want to look deep into Duthie's eyes because I was like, it's going to look weird on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, here's what I'm going to do. I actually have the technology to just bring him in here on the telephone. So let's see if we can get him. Oh, it's a high budget production, fellas. Here we go. He's probably screening.
I got to take a picture of this.
He's screening me for sure.
Well,
Hey, you're still live.
Still see me or hear me there?
Yeah, we're still live. We're just gonna roll with this on the telephone now, buddy. So just we've got a
No,
amazing.
I'm gonna come back. I'm coming back. I'm going changing my iPad here. Hold on.
Okay, so what a mess. Okay, James, you just do your thing with Chris. I'll hang up on the phone. Dregs and you and I will continue. Zuby, let us know if Duthie manages his low budget mess out. Okay, I'll throw that same question to you, Dregs. Was this just a really bad draw after a great regular season to have to play Tampa in the first round?
Yeah.
When you accomplish all you do, that's just a bad break, isn't it?
It was a tough draw. There's no doubt about that. And for that reason, you've got some, myself included, questioning the playoff matrix as we seem to want to do every year. But I do it more from a fan perspective and the entertainment loss. Having Austin Matthews advance in the Stanley Cup second round, that's good for hockey. But you still have to beat the best of the best. And Tampa Bay Lightning, until proven otherwise, are the best of the best. What is he doing over there? What exactly is happening?
Now we got a sideways shot of his office chair. Oh my goodness.
Anyway, it was a bad draw, Ryan, but it was, as I said earlier, a very evenly played series. you can't make excuses. They didn't generate any offense in Game 7. They didn't make it tough enough on Vasilevsky. So that the takeaway needs to be that they do have to look at their roster and figure out whether or not the core of this team is a core that you're going to win with moving forward.
Yeah, like I feel like overreaction is a bit of a risk at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to, but I think there's going to be calls for what would be considered overreaction. Do you get the feeling that Dubas and company are going to approach this with a fairly level head?
Yeah, I do. And you have to include Brendan Shanahan in that equation and maybe ownership, as is the case with any of the 32 NHL clubs. They look back at this year and they made strides, whether the fan base is willing to admit that now because they're still wallowing in a whirlpool of disappointment. I think Kyle Dubas did terrific work this year. He brought in some real interesting pieces. Michael Bunning, Andrzej Kasha, David Kampf, the trades that he made near the deadline. Mark Giordano was really good for Toronto. Colin Blackwell gives them depth. All of those things. And I think that Sheldon Keefe is a good coach. I do not see any overreaction or knee-jerk happening where one of those guys loses their job. I don't.
James, you hearing us okay now, pal? You look better on an iPad. You're like 10 years younger.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I don't have my good mic plugged in now. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good, buddy.
So you guys, I'm going to be invoicing Belvan Construction because you literally broke my computer. This is what I cannot even force shut down my computer. This is what it looks like. There's nothing moves on it. This is now frozen in time, the end of this Mac.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this,
your two ugly mugs and my ugly mug.
Yeah. So anyone listening to the podcast, or if you can see it better yet, this is what I deal with every single hit. James, so your screen froze, and it was just so normal to me because when I'm talking or Odog or Pooley are talking, James he's not listening at all. He doesn't give a rat's ass what we're saying. Yeah. He's just thinking about how he's going to frame his next question. So I wasn't even alarmed by it because I'm so used to it.
How do you feel about your panelist feeling this way about you, James?
Well, no, he's partially right. I mean, I know what he's going to say. He's going to toe the corporate line all the time. So why bother listening?
Okay, let's talk Battle of Alberta. I mean, listen, it's going to be a great series. I think, the province is absolutely on fire waiting for this thing to start. I think it's good for both organizations. I'm glad it happened from a hockey perspective. Yeah. The final two Canadian teams remaining here, Dregs, what do you think? What's your sense of how big this will end up being in the big picture? Because I think it's going to be massive.
Well, I mean, probably no one in the East is going to pay any attention to it because, again, according to you, there's there's literal divide at some point in the country. Is it Winnipeg, Ryan? We can't pay attention.
Yeah, no, we have Winnipeg. We have Winnipeg. Right. You don't get Winnipeg. We get Winnipeg.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, you've got the star status, and we saw that in full glory with Connor McDavid doing what he did. Game 6, 7, has he played better ever? Probably not. I mean, those close would say no. And then look at how the Calgary Flames, wrapped up their series with the Dallas Stars, and Johnny Gaudreau scoring the winner by putting it into a hole that was maybe a quarter of an inch wider than the puck. You could see Matthew Tkachuk on the other side of the net, doing this, hiding because he thinks he's going to take one in the ear. I mean, that illustrates just how significant that shot was. But I think it's going to be fairly evenly played. I mean, can Mike Smith hang on and give the goaltending that he has for a long time? Markstrom's going to be good. So there are many parallels in this series.
James, what do you make of it?
Well, I'm taking it back to the Leafs. I'm actually really happy for both Alberta teams and, the Battle of Alberta that Toronto's out, just for the sake that the nation can really focus on it now and give it the attention it deserved for not having one since the 90s. And so I think there's some, I don't know what the right phrase is for my grade 12 English. There's some little poetic justice or something that these are the only two Canadian teams left and that they get the entire stage to themselves, because I truly think that this rivalry deserves that and that these two teams deserve that, the way the Calgary's played all year. And, the way McDavid, we've had these endless, you on this podcast about, McDavid and Matthews and the heart and all this stuff. Well, now it's his stage. It's completely his stage. And I think it's going to be spectacular. I would say the health of Draisaitl, and if I missed anything, Ryan, in the last 24 hours, like that will be, I think that is a major factor as to whether this is, the Oilers have a good chance to win it. Like if he's completely hobbled the entire time, I think that's a major handicap.
Yeah, and he was asked after the game. Obviously, he's not going to share anything. I'm fine were the two words that he said. If this is high ankle sprain, though, guys, we've all been around this game long enough to know what high ankle sprains mean. You can maybe try and play through it in the beginning, but it catches up with you. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to diagnose him, but I agree with you, James. Like Dregs, if he is as diminished as he was in Game 7, and I would put his percentage, by the way, he played 22 and a half minutes. I'd put his percentage at about 65 for what we saw there in Game 7. That's a massive swing for Calgary if Draisaitl is diminished in that way. Oh, no, James.
I don't know what's going on that chair, but it's just not right.
Oh, James. We're trying to have an adult discussion about hockey.
What's happening here?
Oh, man. I don't know. I think I'm just going to punt on the serious stuff here. We're going to
that's good.
No, this is all good stuff.
I'm legit excited.
I think people are excited.
Series as I've been for one in a long time. I think it's going to be, besides the fact that Dregs and I have to, stay up for the ungodly hours because of you people in the West and your start times.
Yeah, those 8 o'clock starts are killer. They're a killer, man. People out here don't like them either. It's tough for kids to stay up and watch and all that kind of stuff. All right, quickly, because I know you guys got to go. We're going to do too much information because whatever. Maybe we'll get something of value out of this segment. Okay, too much information. This is the golf edition, fellas. Pants or shorts if you have the option, Dregs. Like if it's not too ridiculously hot, do you defer to pants or shorts?
Shorts, always. And in fact, I'm a fair weather golfer, so 12 degrees Celsius is my breaking point. I will not golf below 12. And I feel comfortable. Yeah, I know it is. I feel comfortable in shorts and my FootJoy pullover. I'm fine. I'm not wearing it. What's the matter?
The just your endless little plugs. I mean, I personally, I look great in either my Johnny O brand shorts or pants, Dregs, with my TaylorMade golf balls and clubs.
I'm not going to allow this to continue.
I'll play in anything. Is like if it's plus 0 Celsius, I love to play. I like shorts too. We all like to be comfortable, but the pants, I feel like more of a pro. And since my game's morphed into a pro-ish game now, I feel like I should wear the pants, that I just look more PGA and it fits my style of play right now.
Yeah. All right. You take yourself pretty seriously, apparently. Your partner that you're playing with is misscoring himself, and you can hear it happening. Say something or let it ride. No, maybe it's accidental. Maybe it's accidental. He goes, yeah, bogey. And you're like, bud, do you say something or you let it ride?
I say automatically, and I'm very blunt and borderline rude. Say bogey. My response would be, how are you bogey? Like, you hit it in the trees. You lost the ball. You took an illegal drop. How does that equate to a bogey?
Yeah, if I was playing with you guys, I would be like that. When I'm playing with like sort of guys, I play with on men's night or whatever, because it's funny. I had that experience last week where a guy who I don't play with often, he's a really nice guy, and he's not like I guess it's cheating, but he's just a handicap protector where he was picking up 10-foot gimmies and stuff. Bogey there, and I don't like think that if that's either. The way you want to be, that's fine. But, my buddy Keith
late. And I, we play often, and we put a little just fun money on the line, coffee and stuff. We putt everything, no gimmies, 0 gimmies the entire season.
It's the best way
that's the way it should be.
It's the best way to do it for sure.
Round goes to hell. Bounce back or buckle when you're wanting to hit shoot a certain score. There's no chance. Your round's in the tank. Do you bounce back or do you buckle, James?
A big bounce back. Big There's a lot of 48-38s on my cards.
Nice.
Dregs? No, I think I'd bounce back too, but I'd go unconventional approach here. Normally I'm playing mid-afternoon and I've got the rest of the day off. Unlike James, he actually golfs every day and then he's got a job to do on top of that. I only golf. Yeah, I only golf when I have a day off. So if I've got a bad round going, guaranteed I'm going to get to the halfway hut. I'm going to crush 2 Bud Lights. And I'm gonna shake it off and get going again.
Dregs, by the way, Ryan, one of the all-time great bailers. Yeah, can't make it.
No, on a round
to do with Holly. Yeah, gotta pick up something.
Oh, Dregs.
Something. One of the legendary golf round bailers.
Wow, you're not that guy, Dregs.
Yeah,
fair weather. You're fair weather, and you buckle on rounds.
Look, I'm upfront with it, right? I'm not a last second buckler, but James is alluding to. He invited me to play Coppenwood tomorrow afternoon, right? Okay, well, there's a situation here. It's my 31st wedding anniversary on Wednesday. Well, Wednesday is the opening of the Battle of Alberta, so I've got to work. I can't take Holly out for dinner. So we agreed that we would do it on Tuesday. So that's just not nice, James.
But that's,
don't order the fish. Don't order the fish on Tuesday. It's a rule.
It's different to say I can't make it than to bail, though. Are you the guy that says I can make it and then you?
No, there's a lot of
Never.
like, okay, that's not a good example. There's a lot of in the past booked around a week before. He does give 24 hours notice. He's not the last minute bailer, but 24 hours before he can't make it.
That's better.
80% of the rounds.
I can stomach that. The fair weather golfing thing, I got no respect for. I'll golf in anything. You gotta. It's when it's golf season. You gotta. It's too precious out here, where the golf season is so short. You got. Okay, last one because Dregs has to go. Take a leak in the bush or wait for the outhouse hole.
Oh, in the bush.
Bush. I will sometimes take a leak on the side of the outhouse. Just to be closer to the
What's the matter with you? Oh, buddy. All right, that was too much information brought to you by. Yep.
I also have a roll of toilet paper in my golf bag.
What is that for? You don't.
What do you think?
You don't.
Well, of course
there is
you do.
no chance, Lance, you do that. What is the matter with you?
I may have had an experience years ago that prompted me to never get caught empty-handed.
Somebody's going to say, that's Darren Dreger in the bush over there, and you're going to get Twittered. Can you imagine if that, never mind Dreger face, imagine if that hits Twitter?
Well, it would be better than the alternative, which is, what do I do with my shorts and everything else?
Hold it like all other adults, no longer in diapers.
Or one of your gloves.
All right, this was way too freaking much information brought to you by, again, no one's ever going to sponsor this crap. That was Duthie and Dreger, R2D2, brought to you by Belvan Construction. Thanks, guys. We'll check in during the Battle of Alberta.
Can't wait.
I'll invoice you for the computer.
Oh, nice timing on the song again. See you, fellas.
Bye, guys.
If you're a business owner looking for a general contractor to build or renovate your business, no matter how big or small, Belvan Construction should be your first call. Specializing in the design, planning, and construction of restaurants, office spaces, professional clinics, and retail spaces, Belvan can assist you from start to finish. Learn more by going to belvanconstruction.com.
Folks, golf season is just around the corner, and I don't know about you, but I am some kind of fired up over it. It's the perfect time to get yourself fitted for new clubs or some great new apparel. Well, DeBoers has you covered for all of it. Their facility is first class with amazing TrackMan technology in their simulators and top-of-the-field fitting specialists. You can order now for spring delivery, and they've also got a bunch of new 22 apparel for you to go check out. It's a fantastic group down there at DeBoers. The shop has a great positive feel. I highly recommend you check them out on the corner of 53rd Street and 99th Avenue. DeBoers, helping you play better golf since 1999. Average Joe's Sports Bar in Sherwood Park has proudly served the community and supported minor sports in the area for almost 20 years.
It's a great gathering place for sports fans. Average Joe's has massive big screen TVs, comfortable seating, and a friendly staff waiting to make your experience anything but average. Come check it out on Baseline Road, right next to Home Depot, or make a reservation by calling 780-417-1113. That's Average Joe's on Baseline Road in Sherwood Park. All right, time now for Who's Got Your Back, brought to you by DeBoer's Golf Shop and Fitting Center, helping you play better golf, your local golf shop for the last 23 years. I don't know what Dregs is talking about. I kill these sponsor reads. He's got in my head now. He's got me all rattled. But what a day it was on Sunday. Oh, gorgeous golf weather. Might have even snuck in more than 18 holes. Yikes. First day off in like 2.5 weeks, though, so I had to take advantage. If you are looking to get out on the course soon, make sure you stop by DeBoer's first. They've got everything you need. You want to work the putter out, they got a little putting green there for you to practice on. They got a simulator in the back if you want to get a few swings in. All the apparel, the shoes, the clubs, the bags, everything that you need to get yourself stocked up to have a fantastic golf season. DeBoer's Golf Shop and Fitting Center should be your choice. All right, our storyteller today was great. I just kind of bumped into him the other day while we were getting ready for Game 7. I was on set with Aaron Isfeld and the crew from CTV Edmonton. I've been doing some hits, previewing Oiler games. And as I walked off set, standing there was my good friend, Josh Classen, the weatherman. I took a look at his bio here on the website, and I actually learned some stuff about Josh I didn't know. I'll just give you a couple of highlights. He grew up in Lloydminster, graduated from Nate's radio and television arts program. I did know that. And then he spent nearly 8 years at television stations in Lloydminster, Saskatoon, and Toronto. And he jumped at the opportunity to join CTV Edmonton. This is the part I like, though. At the bottom, it says Josh regularly wins local newspaper magazine Best Of and Reader's Choice Awards and is a recipient of Avenue Magazine's Top 40 Under 40. Class of 2011. So I think that puts Josh at 57 years old. He looks great for his age, but giving us a story about a time somebody had his back, your happiest weatherman alive, Mr. Josh Classen. You never know who you might run into down here at Ice District. On the eve
I'm
of
always just wandering around down here. Downtown Edmonton, it's a nice warm day. You got to just wander around.
Floating around, glad handing with the thousands of people gathered out there. Josh Classen, my good buddy. Good to see you, man. People don't know this. You and I have a bit of history. We go back all the way to Saskatoon.
20-some years, right? 23 years-ish, 22, 23 years. And Rishaug is the whole reason I work here in Edmonton. And that's no lie. I've told your mom this story. I've told everybody this story. I feel like that's a bit
of an exaggeration.
No, it is not an exaggeration at all. I didn't know anybody here at CTV, CFRN back at the time when the job came open. I had already turned down the job like a year earlier because it was a slightly different job. So I called you and I'm like, hey, who is the news director now? And can you get me? And you hooked it all up. You're like, Steve Hogel, here's his number. He really wants to talk to you. And so, without you, I would have had no connection.
So I wanted a got your back story from you, and you insisted on making it one about me. This was not my idea.
No, you totally had my Rishaug had my back when I needed it most. Otherwise, I would have been stuck in Toronto.
Did I ever tell you the story about what we did to Ian Leonard when he left? The weather guy that was here before you.
No.
So he was always he was kind of cocky. We loved him.
Sure.
But he was bragging about this big job he was going to take in the United States.
Yes.
And he, he's going to make some good money down there. So we stole his vehicle.
You saying he wasn't making good money here?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But he was making down in the big market states kind of money.
Yeah.
So we stole his vehicle. And the photo radar that's always out on Stony Plain Road?
Yes. No, you didn't.
Yeah, we did. So he had this, it was where the back window would roll down.
Yep.
And we took that thing and we blitzed through the photo radar twice with one of us hanging out the back, giving him the bird. And sure enough, a couple months later, he got the tickets in the mail.
You paid for them, though, of course,
no,
right?
he did not. No, he
You're
didn't.
like, hey, listen, you got a big fat contract. You use some of those American bucks to pay those photo radar tickets.
How many years
awesome.
now for you in Edmonton?
19 this summer.
That's crazy, man.
Well, how many years for you?
Yeah, I'm 21 or something like
Yeah.
that.
So, yeah.
How you liking it? You raised your family
How
here.
do
You
I
made
like
it.
it?
You made it your home. Like this is home.
Yep. My kids are like 18, 15, and 14 now, so we'd never leave. It's been great. The city's been great to me. The station's been great to me. So, thank you to you.
It is really
for hooking it all up.
Who knows where you'd be? I mean, really.
I'd be
Sault Ste. Marie.
I'd be
Sudbury.
I'd still be in Toronto, living in a 1-bedroom apartment. Probably.
That's awesome. Well, I got your back, buddy. I'm glad
thank you.
you're
I
here.
appreciate it.
Thanks for spending some time on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime.
Josh Classen, CTV Edmonton, weatherman extraordinaire. I won't ask you for a prediction because by the time this gets to air, it'll be over. Well, you know what? I will. Let's see. Prognosticate, and we'll know already if you were right or wrong. What do you got, Josh?
5-3 with an empty netter.
5-3 Oilers with an empty netter.
Yes.
There was no chance you were picking LA. Like, you couldn't if you wanted to because if you thought LA was going to win, would you even be able to say it?
Well, yeah, sure, because all those people are down there separated from us. They can't see me. They can't get to me once they see this.
I said the other day that I thought Austin Matthews should win the Hart Trophy over
Oh,
McDavid.
I know. I heard that, and I almost
threw something at me?
I cringed for you because I'm like, oh, your Twitter mentions are insane. They're bad as it is already.
How's your relationship with Edmonton Twitter? Better than the sports guys, I imagine?
The only negative things I ever get on Twitter is climate change isn't real. And I'm like, cool opinion.
Josh, you're a beauty, buddy. Keep doing what you do.
Hey, no, you too. Thanks, man.
All right, good to see you.
Josh, always great to see you, my friend. Thanks so much for the story.
Feels a little odd that it was about me, but we'll take it here on Got Your Back. That'll do it for the podcast, folks. Don't go anywhere, though, because after I'm done wrapping up, you got to stick around for an incredible happening with James Duthie. The man and technology just do not mesh, and it was an absolute train wreck today, not only in his segment, but then what happened afterwards. So that's coming up. Stick around. For now, we want to send a huge thank you to our sponsors, DLR Vinyl Products, Park Mazda, Bell Van Construction, DeBoer's Golf Shop, and of course, Average Joe's Sports Bar here in Sherwood Park. Give us a download. Thank you for following us so far. How about a Battle of Alberta? We're just going to keep knocking out these podcasts because, well, why not? This is going to be huge for the province, for the Oilers, for the Flames. It's going to be a great series, and we're so pumped to be along for the ride with you. So thanks for the listening that you've done to this point, and thanks for supporting us. This has been Got Your Back, presented by DLR Vinyl Products, and now this from James Duthie.
What's that noise in your... That noise?
It's not me.
What is that? It's coming through my headphone. Oh, you can hear it too?
Yeah, I can hear it too.
Oh, somebody... That's Duthie. He's still on the line. That's his dog sleeping. That's his dog sleeping on the chair.
You didn't disconnect. The computer is still connected and sending a signal.
So you literally killed my computer. I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. How do I exit this damn thing on this iPod?
So double click the little round thing and then flick the window up, and you should just disappear.
A little round thing
on the iPad. Double click the little button. We need a best of Duthie technology segment.
I literally can't get out. This is the podcast I can't escape from. Just gonna turn off the. I'm just gonna.
James doesn't know how to hang up.
I can kick him, but I
don't. Just leave him. The only way he gets to leave is if he can figure it out himself.
Don't you claim something better to do with your day? Don't you have to post the podcast?
James, this is the best thing that'll happen to us this week. Never mind today.
Well, power off.
There it went.
I'm out of your live. Lost. Bleep out my swear words.
All right, we will. Love you, buddy. See ya. James Duthie, ladies and gentlemen. James Duthie.